is certainly a big one, and we see it constantly with Rochester and Mr. Smith. Um, um, what have you got here, Mr. Wood?
Well, first of all, of course, beginning of the novel, we see that she is treated as inferior by her cousins. She is not allowed to read the family books because she is not part of the family. Um, Brocklehurst describes Mrs. Reed as a generous benefactress, but in fact, of course, we know from what we've seen, of course, it's from Jane's account, so we have to always question the reliability of that. But from Jane's account, at least, she seems to be treated very much as inferior. And of course, when she moves to Thornfield as a governess, although she flirts with Rochester, she doesn't really think that he'll be interested in her because she's from a separate social class.
You know what? I always found that this is one of the paradoxes of the novel. Is only when she finds out that she's actually financially well off does she consolidate the romance with Rochester. I always thought that was perhaps a message that maybe students today won't recognize. I mean, it's completely opposite to lots of other stories where we see two opposites attracting and going regardless of social class, regardless of race or religion. So I always found that a very hard part of the novel to really identify with.
Yeah, I mean, that is the great question. The point is that whether it's deliberate or not, Jane is only able to marry Rochester when she has the money inherited. One more thing. What is also interesting is Bronte. None of the other female characters in the novel seem to be successful. Jane ends up living happily ever after, if you want to use the kind of Hollywood term. Miss Temple, perhaps, she gets married, but she disappears. Helen Burns dies. Blanche Ingram disappears. We never hear about her again. Bessie, not really sure. So it doesn't seem like Bronte's actually offering a solution for these women in the novel, and that's probably one of the things which is somewhat disappointing, perhaps.
Okay, well let's look at another one. We've got the marriage market, and this one seems to be fairly well linked with a lot of the other themes we're looking at.
Right, it's definitely love and social class, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, due to Jane's social class, it's far more likely Rochester will marry Blanche Ingram than Jane. We've already sort of discussed that idea that Blanche Ingram, in most senses, seems to be a much more logical choice for Rochester because of who she is, where she comes from, and her station. Of course, the irony is that Rochester falls madly in love with this person who doesn't fit. And again, only when we...
You also wonder, though, if Blanche Ingram was a little bit more intelligent, perhaps, or perhaps something a bit more about her. Perhaps she could have stolen Rochester's heart, but
But it's a superficiality that stands out.
Yeah, absolutely, but that is through Jane's eyes. So of course, Jane is telling us, she seems to be very belittling of the governess and treats her, but she seems like the most important things in her life is money.
Okay, let's go to just a few last themes. We've got fulfillment. Fulfillment is reached by some of the characters in the novel, and it's not reached by others.
Absolutely.
Here we says Jane looks for fulfillment in both finding love, which we've discussed previously, about the whole idea of social status and social class. She rejects him as a mistress, perhaps because of what you mentioned, that she didn't think that perhaps she was, and I'm putting this in quotations in the air, right for him.
Yeah, it's not a simple Cinderella love story because she unlike Cinderella who can run away with the prince, she can't. She needs to be accepted socially as well.
So, Mr. Wood, where do we go from here? I mean, we've taken a look at some themes. We've got one more, I think, is the religious theme, which is a huge part of the novel. And you've got some areas where religion stands out. What would you say with these?
Well, again, the question is perhaps the authorial voice here. Is Bronte talking about using these characters who seem to represent aspects of religion? Is she being overly critical of religion, or is she saying that religion is good? At times it seems one, and at times the other. Brocklehurst seems to be saying that religion is hypocritical. He tells the girls to cut their naturally curly hair, even though his daughters have falsely curly hair. His wife wears expensive clothing, even though he tells the girls to be frugal. So she's,
Right.
in that sense, she seems to be heavily criticising
And that-
certain religious figures. However, Helen Burns, Miss Temple,
But then
seems
you've
to be
got
the best side of
right,
religion.
but then you've got St. John, who also is not a particularly favorable character because of just his coldness and his faith, we could say, towards religion, and how he doesn't see anything else except, where God is taking him. And I think if you take Brocklehurst and St. John's together, neither one of those are particularly positive images of religion.
No, but at least St. John is charitable. I mean,
Yes.
I guess Brocklehurst is in a way as well, but at least he's charitable. He does it by the book. He does it exactly as the Bible says, but he doesn't seem to be doing it from his heart.
But he doesn't have a heart, does he?
No, he doesn't have a heart, and that's why he's an interesting character as well, because he seems to neither be favourable or unfavourable.
All right, let's just finish this off, Mr. Wood, by looking at what do we want the students to do with this tutorial? What's the point here? What would we like? What would you like to see them doing?
Well, it's reasonably clear. I think that they should repeat this if they can stand it again, and then use it to look for episodes where you can see it. I'll give a few examples. I mean, first of all, they could look for religion. Where in the novel is Brocklehurst hypocritical?
And what does he say specifically in certain circumstances?
Yeah, but particularly focusing on that authorial voice. Is Bronte trying to tell us something? Is she trying to tell us that, was she trying to tell Victorian women that they should start behaving in a different way? Was she trying to tell them that they should be looking for love and not social class? Or is it just a novel?
Okay, I mean, we of course, as teachers, don't know, we haven't seen the Cambridge A-level examinations, but we're assuming or we're hoping that some of these themes that we've looked at right now today will come up in the exam, and I think this is probably the best way for us to, or for you to study, is to start looking over these themes and start trying to pick out in the story specifically where they occur.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
Goodbye.